Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my Cerebralites. It is me, the Cerebral Diva, and I'm back with another episode of You Say What. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, You Say What is your opportunity to chime in, to leave your 2 cents, and to be a part of the discussion that is happening here on my channel within my community of Cerebralites. Having said that, before you go another further, do yourself a favor, and while you're at it, do me a solid. Take a second to hit that subscribe button. Once you've done that, take another second to hit that tiny little bell so you can turn on your notifications, and that way you'll be kept in the loop so you won't miss a thing. So let's talk about Ginuwine. Ginuwine is an R&B singer from the late 90s, early 2000s. For those of you who are from that era, such as myself, then more than likely you recall who he is. And for those of you who are not familiar with him, that's why we have Google. And for those of you who are somewhere in between, let me give you a brief encapsulation, and hopefully this will jar your memory. Ginuwine is probably most noted for the song Pony, which was also, I believe, used in the movie Magic Mike. And he's sort of an R&B slash male exotic dancer. Even though he's technically not a male exotic dancer, he's sort of known for his sort of provocative dance moves, shall we say. So, like a lot of fledgling celebrities these days, Ginuwine has turned to reality TV to reinvigorate his career. He's currently appearing on the most recent installment of Big Brother UK. Now, he's appearing alongside a trans woman by the name of India Willoughby. Now, for those of us here in America, we're not familiar with India Willoughby, but she is a respected journalist out of the UK. And she's also appearing on the show, as I said, alongside Ginuwine. And during the most recent episode of the show, Ginuwine is having a little bit of a backlash because he refused to kiss her, and she's a trans woman. Now, for me personally, I say this is much ado about nothing. And the reason I say it's much ado about nothing is because, let me give you guys sort of the setup. So they're in the in the Big Brother house, and they're all sitting around having a conversation, the roommates in the Big Brother. If you're familiar with the Big Brother house, then you know the format of it. So they're all sitting around sort of having this exchange, and India's imparting her wisdom about trans issues and the trans experience to Ginuwine, and at some point in conversation she asks him, would he be open to dating her? And then she goes in for a kiss. Now, Ginuwine recoils. And because he recoils, people are essentially branding him as being transphobic, which I think is ridiculous. And I think it's ridiculous for a multitude of reasons. One of the reasons I think that it's ridiculous is not being attracted to a trans woman and being transphobic are mutually exclusive. You know, you can be tolerant, respectful, inclusive, but at the same time not have a romantic inclination or affinity for something, and that's perfectly okay. That doesn't make you phobic, in my opinion. So, because Ginuwine refused to kiss her on national TV, and he was sort of ambushed in that moment, which is another layer to it. Like, don't just ambush the man with a kiss and go in. That's very aggressive. You're invading my personal space. And unless I ask you to do that, unless you feel that there's some sort of connection or I'm giving you some sort of cues that that's what I want, don't invade my personal space. So, to me, he was sort of ambushed, which I don't think is fair. You can't put a person in this sort of incubator, in this controlled environment, and then expect for him to give you good TV, and then worry about the repercussions of the decisions that he's made for trying to give you guys a good television show, how those repercussions are going to affect his career long term. Ginuwine's fan base, for the most part, would be women of the cisgendered variety. Now, homophobia, transphobia is a huge issue in the Black community. It's a huge issue. We all know that. I mean, if you're being completely honest, then you know it's an issue. Now, some people may say that they don't have an issue with it and may not realize that they actually do have an issue with it. And the reason I say that is because Black women and women in general are allowed to vacillate in terms of their sexuality. You can be a woman. I can go sleep with a woman tonight and sleep with a guy today. And for the most, now there would be some people who would question my sexual orientation, but for the most part, most people would be okay with that. They would see that as me being experimental. Whatever the case may be, I wouldn't forever be branded a lesbian or be branded homosexual. I would just be a woman who happens to like women on occasion. I would vacation with women, so to speak, and that wouldn't be a big deal for a lot of women, for a lot of people in general. But when it comes to men, if you are a man, and I don't care if it happened at the age of 12 or if it happens at the age of 24, and I believe Issa Rae on the show Insecure, she actually did an episode about this where there was a guy who was opening up to, I forget the character's name on the show, but he was opening up to her about his experience in college. You know, she was telling him about how she had slept with women before. And so he took the opportunity to express that he had actually had an encounter with a man before, but it wasn't his thing. But it completely changed the paradigm between the two of them. She just wasn't on board after she found that out. And I think that that's a double standard that we live in. And I don't want to digress too much from the subject at hand as it relates to Ginuwine in India. But ultimately, I feel like, Ginuwine has a right to be attracted to whatever he's attracted to, be it cisgendered women, be it transgendered women, whatever. And I don't think that he should be judged as a result of that. B, I ultimately think that he just simply wasn't attracted to her. Now, maybe there was a component of him not being attracted to her because she was trans, but if that's the case, that's fine too. He doesn't have to be attracted. Or it's like, I can see a woman who's physically attractive, right? But I'm not attracted to women. I don't want to sleep with her, but I can appreciate the beauty and I can appreciate why another man would find her attractive. So for some men who may see a trans woman, they may see a trans woman and say, wow, she's an attractive woman. But the moment that they find out that it's a trans woman, there's sort of a wall that goes up in terms of them being attracted to that woman in an intimate capacity. Beauty is beauty. I don't care how you package it, whether it's male, woman, trans, whatever the case may be. A beautiful person is a beautiful person. However, there are some people who there's some lines that they don't want to cross, that they're not willing to cross, that they're not comfortable crossing. And we don't have the right to sort of accelerate a person's sexual orientation or sort of force them to have this amorphous view of sexuality where they're able to shape shift and do what's politically correct. You don't have to be politically correct when it comes to your sexuality. You have every right to dictate what you like and what you don't like. And I don't think that Ginuwine being persecuted for this really sends the right message, because the conversation that we should be having was, I thought it was cool for him to be sitting on the couch. I thought it was cool for him to be having a conversation. I thought it was cool for him to be open to the insight and listen and hear. And that's what it's really about. If he's open to it, if he's listening to it, he wasn't afraid to sit next to her. He wasn't afraid to engage. A person who's homophobic or transphobic wouldn't be as amiable as he was in that particular situation. Now, this may sound a little mean. And please believe me, the goal was never to be mean. The goal is really to have an open and honest dialogue. But when it comes to Ginuwine, in this situation in particular, his female is primarily cisgendered women, right? And as I was speaking earlier about vacillating between the sexuality, Ginuwine's career, his livelihood is attached to his masculinity. Women go see him because they want to see this hyper-masculine man who is attracted to women, right? And a trans woman is a woman. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that. But there are some women, and especially in the minority community, we have a lot of work as it relates to inclusion in regards to the LGBT community. But some women, I don't care how pretty you are, how passable you are, how big your breasts are, how big your hips are, how passable you are as a woman, they're always going to know. If you were not born anatomically, they're always going to feel, I should say, not know. If you were not born anatomically female, then you were not female. And anything but an anatomical female, anything but a cisgendered woman is not a woman. That is, in their eyes, a man. And so for Ginuwine to kiss a quote-unquote man as they would perceive it is going to ultimately be an act of homosexuality. And that in turn is going to have a detrimental effect on his career. Now, the Big Brother is great for right now, but Big Brother has an expiration date. At some point, Ginuwine has to walk outside the doors of the Big Brother house. And then he has to face the consequences of whatever has transpired inside of that house. Now, It's great to want to appear progressive. It's great to want to appear as politically correct. But when political correctness has an effect on your long-term livelihood, I think Ginuwine has every right to want to protect that. And wanting to protect that, knowing the stigma that might be attached to him or the stigma that might be associated with that, does not necessarily make him transphobic. It makes him a businessman. It makes him a person who's protecting his brand, and there's nothing wrong with that. So who knows what would have happened if, I think his name is Elgin, I think that's Ginuwine's real name. Who knows what would have happened if the cameras weren't there? Who knows what his predilections may be when no one's watching? We don't know that. But at the end of the day, as I said before, he was ambushed, put in a situation where he really didn't have much of a choice, and forced to make a split decision. And in that split decision, he decided that this wasn't what he wanted to do. And I'm okay with that. And that concludes this episode. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and please share if you feel so inclined. Remember to follow me across all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. Also remember, it is better to be pissed off than it is to be pissed on. And it's always, in closing, people, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. It is me, the Cerebral Diva. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for listening.